All right, guys. I wanted to. I was gonna try to avoid doing the stepping stone too, just so not to get into so much trouble with the school. But I realized after making the video for everybody yesterday on the exercise that I had to make some changes to the code because I couldn't do what I originally wanted, and that I was originally going to control the first person, the third person within the camera director or actor class. That unfortunately was proven too difficult. So I moved it all over to the character blueprint, and this is what I've come up with. So you know, guys, I do have three projects kind of going, just coding them all independently. So where I already have my assignment done, this here is another project right where we left off from the video. We have all of our basic movements. We can go in between the different views. The toggle still doesn't work, but we can still kind of go in between. Okay. So some things that have changed. We'll just get right into what changed. I had to take the, what am I thinking? The toggling. So the Boolean for toggling and the function. You notice the function is no longer part of the header. So I took the toggle and put it over here. You can see it here now. And the code is actually just written here. So that's all I did as of now. So going through, how do we get the camera to switch? Well, another thing we had to change in the blueprint. On the blueprint class, I couldn't figure out a way to control this boom arm with putting it in through the blueprint. So we have to remove it. So, and it'll just cause errors. So real quick, if we don't. So if we delete these both, keep in mind we're going to have to go back and do some of the settings and double check some stuff. But that'll be fine. So the first place we're going to start, of course, is in here. And we're just going to recreate both of those elements we just took away. Just going to cheat to save time. Okay, so if you remember looking at the instructor's document / tutorial where we put a bunch of images together, it was hard to read and understand, but this is the section that kind of will look familiar to that. I did some more reading on it online and found some more documentation to it, so I understand it a little bit more. We're essentially making instances of both these objects, which we can then create these individual objects, which is of course what we need so we can control their behaviors. Right, so this here is just going to create the property for the spring arm, or I should say it's going to create the instance for the spring arm. We still have to create it. And then similarly, we can't go back to the editor yet. There is a couple of different things we need to do first. But first we're going to go ahead and just continue on down the list here from top to bottom. So in protected, if we haven't done it already, let me check. I did move some things. Yes. Okay, so make sure you move this over to here, the third person view toggle, the Boolean. And then coming down to public, we're just going to go ahead again and make sure we have the function declared there. And then, believe it or not, we're ready to go to the CPP file. Again, there's really not a lot to this once you understand it a little bit more. So in the CPP file, we're going to get right to going into the setup file here, Devin's character, this one here. So underneath all this, actually we'll put it to the top. So underneath the constructor, give it some space so we're not confused. So this is the line that will actually do the creating. It's going to just create a default sub-object. And this is kind of redundant, but use spring. And this next section here, the text, we're going to actually name the component. You can name it anything you want, really. Doesn't really matter. Now we're going to start setting some of the parameters. Starting with, of course, attaching it to the root component. We're going to set the starting target length, and you'll get familiar with this. We'll use it again. I am hard coding these on purpose. I realize you're supposed to put them in variables, but when I'm learning or writing, I like to see the hard number, and then once I know everything's working, I will move these numbers into variables. So for this is how we're doing it. Okay, so that sets up our camera. And if we built this, you'd see the camera boom arm, the spring arm. If you built the project, you'd see the spring arm there. So now we're going to do the follow camera, kind of the same thing. Same thing, write it anything you want. And with this one, we're going to set it up, the attachment as well. So we're going to start this little game. Except for this time, of course, we're setting it up, attaching it to the camera boom arm. And now we're going to set this property again. Except for this time, we're going to set it to false. All right, so right here, it's technically a good spot to build it. So we'll go ahead and build it. And I'll show this a little bit more once we're inside. Believe it or not, this is most of it. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. Okay, we're done building. So we'll come into here and you notice that it is here. All right, so that's the good news. Notice that it is way down here though. We can change that. But one of the things I'd like to make sure, whatever you named your cameras component, click on that and just make sure with all these movings that your character, character is still selected as far as all that goes. All right, so everything works. So we can continue on to the last little bits of all this. So one of the things we had to do as we come down, well, one of the things I wanted to do, because I wanted the instructor and anybody else to be able to see what's going on, I decided that it would be a good idea to kind of follow suit and put some instructions on screen. Yes, green's my favorite color. I use it a lot. Might go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. You write these in reverse order because it'll create one on the, it'll write one out to the top and push all the other ones down. So where it looks backwards here, it'll print correctly there. Okay, so moving on down through, we can come all the way down. None of this needs to be adjusted until we get to our own function, which I named change view. And it's all going to just be changed here. One of the first things that I noticed is it's always good to make sure that you're in the first person view before allowing the toggle. And then you can see I did put this section already in here, where it's basically just calling the function from within its own class, which means we can continue on down through. Where is it? Okay. So here we need to add some code. So let's get right to it. The first one, you can see we're already setting the Boolean, so there is these three components. I don't know if you remember, actually save some time, I suppose. All the way up here. We're going to toggle this on and off through here again. And of course the reason for this is when you're in first person view, right? So this one here, you want it the way it is. But when you're in first person view, you kind of want your mouse to control directions. Basically you can use your mouse and drive the car sort of thing. It was something I liked. This next section, honorable shout out to Joe for pointing it out to me. I was trying to figure out because I was getting a lot of glitchiness when going to first person view. And the reason for that, of course, so we don't forget it, camera boom, in order to get this to go, it might go without saying, we are using the spring arm length property and setting it to 0. When you set it to 0 without hiding the character, you can see glitchiness. You're kind of looking from within the body, or you have to do this offset to put the camera way in front of the character. This way, we're hiding the character, shortening the arm length, and then the opposite is just as true when we go back to third person view. We're no longer going to be hiding the character. So keep that in mind as well. Setting it to true, set actor hidden in game, you're setting it to true. False to make it visible again. Then of course the arm length is just going to go to 300 again. I am not doing any smooth blending. It just is what it is. Bang, bang, done. So truly, if I did everything right and I followed my notes correctly, that should be it. So what we'll do is we'll build it and we'll test it, and you should be able to see the changes relatively quickly. Okay, so First thing you can see in the upper left there, we have the instructions now. So if I hit 2, it's the corner cam. Notice I can still move. Everything's still functioning. 3, still moving. 4, see? I'm now in first person view. Yes, you can't see your character or none of that fancy stuff, but it is what it is. Also keep in mind, what I didn't do is adjust my height. So I'm looking right as if I'm crawling. So we can toggle that back. Like I said, we can change that right from here again. So we go to the boom arm, drag that right up to the headshot, compile, save, and run. And that should be fine. There we go. All right, guys, again, I do hope these are helping you. I do realize there may be other ways of doing it, but I figured I would share the way I figured them out, and hopefully it helps.